What's up, everybody? Welcome to Moxie Bets, presented by Caesar Sportsbook. I'm Katie Mox, and today we have our friend of CBS Sports, the czar of the playbook, Emory Hunt, here to talk NFL free agency. Emory, I know that you're obviously knee-deep right now in the draft. You got your playbook that's coming out here pretty soon. Has this been one of the more wild free agencies that you've seen? And it feels like it. It feels like almost like an NBA free agency where your phone's going off every 5 seconds and some massive trades are happening. Does it feel like that to you?
It feels like that to me, Katie, and thank you for having me on the show. But it feels like that to me for the running back position. I've never seen this many high caliber backs really, be on the market and get moved around like this while they still have a lot left in the tank. Joe Mixon being the biggest surprise to me. I didn't think he was getting out of Cincinnati, and I was like, wow, that would be a great pickup for the Cowboys. But before he even got released, Houston was like, we'll take him, and sent the pick over. So it's been fun to watch these backs go to really good places that they're still going to thrive and perform this season.
Well, let's talk about that for a second. As I always refer to you as like the running back whisperer, right? You've always got the best plays on running backs. As a running back yourself, you know a lot about it. And there was so much disrespect going into last year's season about the running back position and how maybe they're not as valuable. And then you see all of these, trades happening right now. Like you said, very high value backs kind of getting moved around. What does this say about the overall view of running backs, in your opinion?
Listen, running backs are still valuable because people wouldn't make moves for non-valuable assets. And you look at where these landing spots are, some of the first moves they made were going to get running backs because they know toward the back end of the season, I hate to use a cliche, but when it gets cold outside and you kind of want to lean in on a run game and kind of wear down your opponent, you need someone that can tote the rock. And we've seen this play out time and time again. It just so happens that now it's funny because, earlier today I'm watching, Marshall Faulk highlights from San Diego State and just watching how even on a free play, guy jumped offside. They just turned around and gave it to Marshall Faulk like, we're still going to run the ball. But at the end of the day, you need those type of game breakers. Now, everyone is not a game breaker. There's levels to this. But when you still have a Derrick Henry, when you still have a Saquon Barkley and guys that are coming out in the draft that are of that caliber, you still have to take them. There's still a place for having those game breakers back there.
So when you look at these running backs, which one was your favorite move? And I'll go ahead and say, and I know that, Giants fans aren't going to be happy about this, but I love Saquon Barkley going to the Eagles because as much as I love the Giants, that was a dead end place for Saquon. And we've been saying for years, like, we haven't seen the best of him and how good he can be. And I'm not saying that the Eagles necessarily, considering that Jalen Hurts is their goal back. If you think of this from a fantasy perspective, how productive is Saquon going to be in fantasy if Jalen Hurts is the one getting all the touchdowns? But I do think this is a better situation for him. Despite, the Eagles being disappointing maybe last year to Eagles fans, they were still, 11-6? I mean, they still had an incredible season. They've shaken things up in terms of their coordinators. I think this is going to be fantastic for Saquon. But what is your favorite move of a running back this free agency?
Obviously, I love the Saquon, and I love how folks are making excuses for him for the Giants. Like it's like this big mansion, right? And it's a nice mansion, but we need to downsize, maybe a little bit too big. They're focusing on that, but there's a big gaping hole of a front door. There's no front door. No one's talking about the front door missing. Everyone's talking about we got to downsize. The front door in this situation is Daniel Jones. That's the problem with the Giants. They may be steamrolling to the first pick next year with no Saquon Barkley and no other explosive players out there on offense. But my favorite one was Joe Mixon, because when you look at the Texans and you look at what Joe Mixon does as a receiver, he's not just your standard screens, flares, flats guy. He's someone that can go down the field and make it happen in the passing game on top of being a great runner. And I've said this before about his running style. He reminded me of Tigger. Kind of just like bounces around. It kind of
double gutter.
Right, exactly. He was with the Bengals, so it worked perfectly.
Yeah,
I love how he's able to bounce across gaps. His great ankle flexion, and I feel like when you add someone that still, to me, is a game breaker, health permitting, behind what's an improving offensive line, you have a young quarterback in C.J. Stroud. I think that's one of those missing pieces offensively for a team like Houston.
Well, when you look at this Bengals team, right? Obviously, Joe Mixon, like you said, very surprising. Didn't think that he was going to leave Cincinnati and then go to Houston. T. Higgins has also requested a trade from Cincinnati. I thought that the Texans would be a good landing spot for him. Do you think this is more of like a Deebo Samuel situation where he wants to stay and he's trying to leverage them to get them to pay up a little more? Or do you think he really wants out?
That's a great question. I feel like it's a little bit of both. Because he wants to get paid. And we know historically the Bengals have had issues in letting their best players walk. And we've seen this time and time again. We usually see it with the quarterback position. They used to let their best quarterbacks just, become better. They're not doing that. They're paying Joe. And they're making good moves now to pay guys. We saw them pay Mixon, so we'll see if this goes on. But I just feel like it's a little bit of both. He wants to be paid, but the Bengals also understand, well, now that we don't have Mixon, we got other needs to fill around the roster. We got to tighten up things because we've seen Joe miss time, 2 out of the 3 years so far. So we got to make sure he's out there for a full 17.
Right. Makes a lot of sense. I would love to see T. Higgins also go to the Texans. I'm not, they've got I don't know how the Mixon trade impacts their cap space, but I believe they had the 4th or 5th most cap space in the league. And you think about that wide receiver room with Tank Dell and Nico Collins and then a T. Higgins, it would be crazy. But one of the biggest moves, I think, we're going to get into, some of the, obviously we're going to talk about the Steelers, guys. We're going to get into that in a second. But the Atlanta Falcons signing Kirk Cousins, and you had Cam Newton coming out saying, I want to know who this guy's agent is. The amount of money that they are paying Kirk Cousins. And then you got Kirk Cousins too, which I think is hilarious. There's been clips of him saying, oh, I want to retire in Minnesota. This is what I do. And now there's clips being like, I would love to retire. I've always wanted to retire as an Atlanta Falcons. I didn't realize how much family ties he has in Atlanta. How do you grade this signing, and is he going to be worth the money?
A 0. Like it's
like
amazing to me. Yes, because here's the thing: you're sitting in a prime. There's layers to this, Miss KJ Mox. Let me walk you through this. Okay. Right, you have the top 10 pick in Atlanta, so you're within striking distance of getting a quarterback that can help you out. So let's say you want to draft a young quarterback. Cool. He can learn behind Kirk Cousins, but you gave this man this 4-year infinity amount of money, $1 million deal, right? So that's number one.
So it's not the player, it's the money.
No. It's the player. That's part number 2.
Okay.
Because remember when the Vikings went to the NFC Championship game and it was Case Keenum and the
Minnesota Miracle? Oh,
right.
Yeah.
And so everybody's, oh, man, we get Kirk Cousins. That's going to push us over the hump. We're still waiting for that to get over the hump, right? Yeah. So what have you seen in a decade? I don't know how long he's been in Minnesota, but he's been in Minnesota a while. How much have you seen of him in Minnesota to think anything is going to change in Atlanta? And so now with Kirk Cousins coming to Atlanta, this is the third part. You're saying he's going to get you through the 49ers defense, the Bucs defense, Philly, Dallas, and Green Bay. It is not happening for Atlanta. So this is a bad deal for the Falcons. And yeah, it's going to look great. But again, everybody loves iceberg lettuce, right? They, calories. It's going to look great for all the fantasy people, and they're going to have all the numbers and targets.
Yeah.
And they're going to go 8-9 and barely miss the playoffs. And, we just need a few more weapons. I want to go 8-9 the next year. This is not a good move for Atlanta.
I mean, all right. Hard to argue with what you just said. I do think, and again, like you said, going back to a fantasy perspective here, Kirk Cousins is a win for all of the pass catchers on the Falcons, considering just how bad the quarterback play has been over the last couple of years. Desmond Ridder and Marcus Mariota, I'm sorry, but this is a huge upgrade for them. Now, I agree with you. Not exactly worth the money. And going back to what Cam Newton said, who is this guy's agent? We have all these people like Lamar Jackson not needing an agent. You got Caleb Williams coming out there saying, I'm a grown man. I don't need an agent. And then you look at Kirk Cousins and you're like, yeah, that's probably his agent that got him this deal. I don't know that Kirk walks in there and his Kohl's cash. Yeah.
This is what got Kirk Cousins this deal. And it shows you the value of marketing and advertising. Because had he not been on that quarterback special,
shout out to Omaha Productions,
people wouldn't have seen him. You know what, man? Yeah. He's a good guy. He's a nice guy. and they're letting that cloud their football judgment. So when it's week 9 and he takes that ill-advised sack to, in a potential scoring drive, fumble the football, but at the end of the game, the scoreboard, the box score says, 19 of 30, 348 yards, a touchdown, no picks. Like, man, he was balling. Like, no, he wasn't. Yeah. He had garbage time stats. He had that crucial sack and fumble, but because he was on, the quarterback show, people forget about that. Like, man, Kirk Cousins is a good dude. He could play.
Well, the quarterback show completely changed my personal perspective. I used to make fun of him all the time, and then I felt guilty. I'm like, man, I can't say anything bad about Kirk Cousins, the family man. They got me, and they got the Atlanta Falcons. All right, so you and I, the last time you were on this show, we discussed Justin Fields and what we wanted to see happen with Justin Fields, and you and I agreed. We wanted to see him stay in Chicago. We thought that this was going to be their best bet. Well, clearly, that has not happened. All signs point to them drafting Caleb Williams, number 1 overall. And they have now traded Justin Fields to the Steelers, who also, by the way, a week ago picked up Russell Wilson. What are your thoughts on this trade from the Bears' perspective and then the Steelers?
The reason why I didn't want the Bears to trade Justin Fields, one, anytime you watch a Bears game, you're not looking at Fields and say, oh, he's the reason why they're losing. No. You realize he's a really good player.
The O-line?
O-line was, and now they start to build pieces. You're like, oh, if they keep building, they can continue. They can see the fruits of their labor, right? And the team is growing together. And I like to see that happen for NFL teams. Okay, so they move off of him. And plus, the other reason why I didn't want him to be traded, because you were in the catbird seat with the number 1 overall pick. Everybody wants one of these quarterbacks. You could have moved down to 2, picked up another first next year, and moved down from 2 to 3 or 4, picked up another first next year and some additional picks in this, this draft, and took a receiver and continued to build around what you've already built and secured the future assets with multiple first-round picks. You could have left this draft with 3 first-round picks. Now, what I would hate to happen, because Caleb Williams is a great player, a great prospect. But
thank you. A great prospect. You don't know how he's going to be in the NFL. You cannot definitively say he's going to be better than Justin Fields.
So I'm not going to be upset if they take Caleb Williams, but boy, if they don't, this could blow up in their face.
There's no way they don't. Who else would they take?
Well, listen, we've seen this team move up from 3 to 2 to take Trubisky in the draft that had Watson and Mahomes in it. So I am not, granted, different GM, I get all that. But from the Steelers' perspective, I will go to. I ain't gonna say that. I'm gonna hold that for off air. But I will say this. This is a move that you could tell was in the making from the time they drafted Pickett. And I'll say that. But for them to go and get Russell Wilson, who's on a 1-year deal, we're gonna get our quarterback and make Denver pay for it type deal, right? Mm-hmm. And so you got him on a 1-year deal, and you bring in a lottery ticket that you've already seen the numbers. And you've seen the drawings, you kind of cheated. You see this guy's got talent, and it helps you compete in the division that you were competing in regardless, despite your quarterback situation. So I think this is a great move because and we know Mike Tomlin is going to really let these guys compete. And so even whoever loses is not an indictment on their skills, because they're both starting quarterbacks. So someone's going to lose, but that doesn't mean they can't play. But for Pittsburgh, now you're in the mix for not only getting to the playoffs, but making a deep run to playoffs, because both of these guys can really ball.
It's interesting when I read stories about Justin Fields. Well, first it was like, I thought that the Bears were going to hold on to him maybe mid-season when somebody needs a quarterback. We saw how many quarterbacks went down last year. I mean, just an insane amount of backup quarterbacks were playing. So I thought in order to get the best value for him, they'd maybe hold on to him and then see who needs a quarterback at some point in the season. I was surprised for multiple reasons. Once they got Russell Wilson, I thought that Justin Fields was out of the equation for the Steelers. I had no idea that that's something that they were going to do. And then I thought that the Bears would try to get the most value out of him. I do think that the Bears ultimately, in this situation, not in all situations, but did right by Fields, because I had heard that there was 4 different suitors that came after him, and Fields didn't want to go anywhere. He had wanted to go to the Steelers, and so they made that happen for him. What do you think it is about, I guess there was only 2 places where he could have been a starter, the Vikings and the Broncos. Those are the 2 places that need starting. So maybe he didn't want to go there, or maybe they weren't interested in him. But why do you think he decided to go and be a backup to Russell Wilson?
Because he's on that 1-year deal. And, Pittsburgh is not obligated to re-sign him or renegotiate that contract because Denver is out there shelling out, Walmart money for Russell Wilson. So for him to not play for them. So that's number one. So he has an easier pathway to being the starter long term. And two, and most importantly, look at what they have in place. Improved offensive line, 2 good running backs, 2 good tight ends. They got a great receiver in George Pickens. The defense is going to be the defense. And you got a great coach in Mike Tomlin. This in a stable organization, 3 head coaches in the last, 40 years or something like that. So you have stability. You have great ownership. You have great talent evaluation. I don't care where they pick a receiver, but the receiver they do pick always ends up being good. And so why not, for a young quarterback, go to that situation where you can go ahead and potentially be their long-term answer?
And what do you think about the Steelers? Black head coach, and then not 1, but 2 black quarterbacks, both the starting quarterback and what does this mean for football? I mean, I don't think this has happened before.
Well, let's zoom out and look at the AFC North. I mean, you got Baltimore has the depth Lamar. Like that. Even the QB coach, Martin that played at Martin that played at Tennessee, won national championship, the only national championship in Tennessee in modern history. Then you look at what the Browns are doing, their depth chart. So it seemed like the AFC North is locked in on collecting talent at the quarterback position. So I just think it's
changing, but it's changing. The NFL is changing in the best way. A lot of those kind of old, hard thoughts about the quarterback and coaches. And like you said, in the AFC North particularly, but it's nice to see things changing
for now. But we know it's draft season, and we know listen, as much as things change, the more they stay the same. And be ready for next year when it's time for Shedeur Sanders to be. So all the things we think we've moved past will be right back in the forefront for this. And again, all it'll take is one incomplete pass where we hear the can't read defenses, can't pass, all that stuff like that. So it's just cosmetic right now.
Right. All right. I think the Steelers, it's not cosmetic with them, but yes, maybe for the other people, I will agree with you on that one. Let's talk about the Kansas City Chiefs here because they signed Hollywood Brown. Obviously, big talk last year. They didn't have any receivers. Now they still won the Super Bowl, but now they've got a superstar, and maybe towards the end of his career. But Hollywood Brown's not dropping a ton of passes. What do you think of this move?
It's interesting because I thought the Arizona Cardinals were a good spot for him. He already had the rapport with Kyler Murray, and you wonder what happened, why he fell out of favor there, which is unfortunate because that was that's the reason why you went out and got him. So for Kansas City, we've seen this before. You go out and get Marquez Valdez-Scantling, you go out and get Kadarius Toney, you go out and get Sky Moore, you go out and get Mecole Hardman, right? And then we've seen them just not live up to the standard of what happened when they let go Tyreek Hill. So I hope for Hollywood Brown that this is the opportunity for him to, because I think this is his last opportunity to be a significant starter in the league in terms of being a number 2, right? Because we've seen him leave Baltimore, leave Arizona, and now I feel like this is your last chance. So hopefully it works out for him because he does give them someone that can go vertical down the field.
Now, I have to ask you, obviously, about the 49ers and your take on this. They've been restructuring a lot of contracts, trying to make some more cap space. Unfortunately, Arik Armstead, who's just been a staple with the 49ers on defense for years, they wanted him to take a big pay cut. He said, absolutely not. Fully support that. And now he's over there with the Jacksonville's Jags. How big of a loss is this to the 49ers, and how big of a gain is it to Jacksonville?
It's a huge gain for Jacksonville. It's a big loss for San Francisco. But what I love about what San Francisco tends to do, they draft well. So,
in later rounds too. Yeah.
Right. It's kind of like what the Rams do. It's kind of like what Baltimore does, what Pittsburgh does. If you're going to allow guys to go, and low key, the Bengals do it too, which is why they've had so many good, receivers and running backs recently. So if you're gonna let a guy go, I can trust that they're gonna go and get someone else in the draft that can help them out. And so it's a big loss, because of what he meant. And, he has, you don't find length like that up front that could play interior defense, that could get pressure and also stop the run. That's why it helps out Jacksonville. But for San Francisco, I think they'll be fine. They'll miss them, obviously, but they'll be fine because they've done a great job, especially in certain positions. A lot of teams do great jobs in certain positions, San Francisco being one of them. So I think they'll find, I don't want to say a replacement, but they'll find someone that can help them out this year up front.
All right. So I love to hear that. Thank you. One more question. Keep it in California. The Chargers, obviously very exciting with Harbaugh coming. Ooh, what's Justin Herbert going to look like? Who's he going to throw to? Who's going to run the ball? What is happening in well, it's not San Diego anymore, in LA.
Well, listen, the meme with the NBA commissioner, like, you better learn run game, buddy. Like, because that's what's going to happen. And listen, all jokes aside, it's a great thing for Justin Herbert, because Justin Herbert, like, we talked about empty calorie stats.
Yeah.
Like, if people love to talk about, when you bring up why Justin Herbert may be overrated, people will say, oh, well, he's lead the league in touchdown pass. He has led his first 4 years in touchdown and passing yards and yards per attempt. But they always leave out the one key stat. Fourth quarter interceptions, he leads that category since he got into the league. So the best way to combat that is to run the ball in the fourth quarter, take the ball out of his hands. What we'll see is Harbaugh do a great job of playing situational football. And we've seen Harbaugh do this with Alex Smith. We've seen him do it with Colin Kaepernick. We've seen him do it with Stanford. We've seen him do it with Michigan, which is why people think J.J. McCarthy is a top 3 pick. So,
and he's not.
Right. And the thing is, with Herbert, you have someone that can legit throw the ball deep down the field. You have someone that has some athleticism. So he was just struggling, trying to, hold it down in the fourth quarter. And he's just not built that way. And it's not a knock on him. That's just his game. He's someone that could probably do well in the first quarter, second quarter. And then, hey, we need to take the air out of the football. And the best way to do that is lean on the run game. So I think they'll play better situationally, which should yield more of those fourth quarter wins that we're looking for.
How many years do you think it'll take for Harbaugh to turn them into maybe not a Super Bowl winning team, but to make it to the AFC Championship game? How many years you give?
I mean, that's tough because
the AFC is tough.
It's
Harbaugh. He's done it everywhere.
Right, legit everywhere. Like, I mean, Stanford football was in a BCS bowl. Like, that's insane.
The Niners were horrible.
Right, turn around quickly. You know what I'm saying? So,
2 years, 3 years.
Man, it's that AFC North. Everyone's getting to the playoffs there. Then you have the South. You have 2 teams that legitimately could get there, 3 if you count Jackson. So I would say 4 years. It's hard, man, because if they were in the NFC, they could be in contention probably this year. But AFC is going to be tough. So I'll say 4 just to be safe.
4 years. I give him 2. This is Harbaugh. I mean, he's a force of nature. We're going to take a quick break here. You're watching Moxie Bets with Emory Hunt. We're going to get into the draft. We're going to see if any of these teams have buyer's remorse maybe. And we're going to talk some early odds for next season. You're watching Moxie Bets. We'll be right back. Why should you bet with Caesars Sportsbook? 2 words, Caesars Rewards. Every bet brings you closer to the type of benefits only Caesars can offer. Hotel stays, VIP experiences, sports and concert tickets, and more. It's not just an app, it's an empire. Welcome back to Moxie Bets. Katie Mox here with Emory Hunt, and we are talking NFL free agency. All right, we've talked about some of the biggest storylines of free agency, but again, tons of moves here. Who do you think may have a little buyer's remorse? I mean, you kind of already said Kirk Cousins. Anybody else?
Nah, listen, the Falcons are in trouble. And here, that whole division, and I'm not saying this. I'm saying this, but I'm not saying this because people may hear it the wrong way. But talk about we talked about the AFC North, right? How it's a gauntlet. The NFC South has all of the quarterbacks that are afraid of pressure the most. Baker Mayfield, Kirk Cousins, Derek Carr, and a young Bryce Young.
Ones that will hold on to the ball too long and take bad sacks.
So any defense you face outside of that division, they're not going to lose games. They're going to get blown out. So that it's going to be week 9, and the Falcons going to be like 4-6. and Falcon fans be like, man, meanwhile, somebody else that they could have had in the draft, whether it's Michael Penix or, Michael Pratt or Bo Nix, like, man, we could be out there having fun with those guys. We were stuck here with Kirk Cousins taking these ill-advised sacks. 30-something years old, 35 years old, coming off an Achilles who was already taking sacks pre-Achilles injury. Like, buyer's remorse immediately.
Speaking of Achilles and buyer's remorse, Aaron Rodgers coming back this season. Do you think that the Jets are going to... I mean, last year there was so much hype going into it, like he was going to be the savior, and then he ran out with the American flag looking like Captain America, and then we never saw him again. And then now he's said a lot of ridiculous things we are not going to repeat on this show, and possibly running for vice president. Are the Jets just up the creek without a paddle?
Not only did he come out running with the American flag, he came out on 9/11.
Yes.
Queen Latifah did the national anthem. You know what I'm saying? In the rain. You know what I'm saying? And the Jets had the glorious throwback uniforms, which they now made permanent.
Mm-hmm. But then he's also said some crazy things about our government. So it's like conflicting. So conflicting.
I just wonder, why hasn't the Jets... Well, you see all these mock drafts. No one has picked the Jets to get a quarterback, because would be, they need to draft one, because you have him coming off of Achilles.
Yep.
I don't know who's the back. Oh, Tyrod Taylor is the backup, but he's just like, he's always, he give you a good 2-game stretch and he get hurt. Knock on wood, you hope he doesn't get hurt. But I feel like the Jets draft the quarterback again, like, because they should be in the market
they're afraid of Aaron Rodgers, though. I think that's they're insane. Afraid of him.
So because of that, to your original question, yes, they're up, creek without a paddle, because they're hamstrung by Aaron Rodgers, and that's going to hold the entire team back.
And the O-line, our friend Lige Douzable likes to say it's not the O-line, but I don't know. We'll see how that goes. All right. So last year we saw the Texans make some surprising trades, in that first round to get CJ Stroud, and then to get, why am I blanking on the defensive guy that they picked up?
Will Anderson.
Any teams that you could see making some frisky little trades to get into the first round?
If I'm Denver, because you can't sit there and tell me with a straight face and like, we're going to the season with Jarrett Stidham. Like, oh God, like, boy, stop. Like, stop it.
Yeah.
Like, nah, you know what I'm saying? So they would be someone that I could see make a move. Vikings are telling everybody they're trying to make a move. They've already made one. Now they're trying to get up even more. I'm surprised the team with the big gaping front door missing is not trying to make a move up front to get a quarterback. So I do see realistically maybe Denver and clearly the Vikings, because of what they've already done. So they're going to try to package the additional first round pick they got with the one they already have, and probably one next year, to move up into the top 3. But the problem is it takes 2 to tango and 3 to jump rope. So you need someone else to be like, you know what? Oh, yeah, we'll take that pick to move out. Who's going to move out of top 3 or top 4? Maybe the Cardinals. But why would you do that when you could get Marvin Harrison Jr.,
Yeah. So which quarterback of the draft in that top 5 do you think would be a good fit with Sean Payton and the Broncos? Who do you think they have their eye on?
That's a good question.
It's a quarterback heavy class. It's a good class of quarterbacks.
Knowing what Sean Payton wants, I would probably say he would probably like a JJ McCarthy. He would like a Bo Nix.
Okay.
He would like maybe Michael Penix. But I feel like JJ McCarthy would be someone Sean Payton could see as young, work with
like a young Drew Brees. Yeah.
Or someone he's the athletic. Yeah. He has upside because he's only like 20. So, he can grow with him, and that'll buy you some time to build around, so I could see those two being. And if you're talking about Bo Nix or, Penix, or maybe Spencer Rattler, who I like a lot, who's my number 3 quarterback, maybe you don't make those moves up in the draft to get somebody, right? You can get those guys maybe where you are or at the top of the second. But if you start to see a run on quarterbacks, you never know who's a mystery team that could trade back into the first round to get one of those guys. But if they make a move up, I think it's for a JJ McCarthy, who seems like a Sean Payton type.
And maybe doesn't have as many eyeballs on him as some of the other guys. So maybe they think that's like a little bit of a, I don't know, safer bet for them. All right. So let's look at the odds for next year's Super Bowl. I don't know why. The 49ers are the favorite here at plus 550. Then you got the Chiefs, followed by the Ravens, the Bills, the Lions, and the Bengals, even though the Bengals are without Mixon now and potentially without T. Higgins. We'll see how that figures out. Wow, you went way down the board for this one. Explain to me why you like the Eagles to win the Super Bowl next year.
Perns. Perns. You need points to win, Katie. And the Eagles should.
I was like, Perns. Is that a name I don't know? Okay, yes.
I'm from New Orleans. That's a New Orleans accent. You hang around that next year's Super Bowl, you'll hear a lot of people say Perns.
Okay.
So they're going to score 35 points a game easily. Saquon has never had this amount of space to run before. They have a very good offensive line.
Load the box. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Right. So now you can't load the box against the Eagles now because you're going to leave A.J. Brown one-on-one. You can leave Devonta Smith one-on-one. Dallas Goedert one-on-one. So you got to, find coverage somewhere. Man, this dude, and you have a mobile quarterback in Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
Saquon is going to go nuts. And that offense is going to go nuts. And I think they're going to rebuild that defense. I know they lose Fletcher Cox. I know they lose Kelsey at center. Are you
worried about the O-line without Kelsey? Are you worried about the tush push without Kelsey?
That's why you bring in Saquon. So I'm not worried about that at all. They prepared for that.
So they don't lean on the tush push as much with Saquon, is what you're saying.
Bingo. And at the end of the day, it's I think they've done a good job in preparing for that. If they want to kick Landon Dickerson down to center, he's done that before. Juergens, I believe, is still there as well. Another one. So they've got guys that can help them out. Obviously, you're losing a Hall of Famer. And on the defense side, we've seen them prepare on the interior for Fletcher Cox's eventual retirement. So the secondary's gotten better. They bring in Chauncey Gardner-Johnson back. That's going to bring that intensity back to the secondary. They can continue to add corners in the draft. So I think they'll be better as a team collectively. So that's why I like them, especially at plus 1,700. Vegas just went chalk here and went with the last four teams in the tournament.
Yeah.
And he threw the Bengals in there for favor. So I like plus 17. I like those odds.
I mean, it's hard to argue. It's kind of like even a long shot there, but you've got an even longer shot. Let me pull up the actual odds right now. I'm just, I don't know if I'm still bitter, if I'm still hurt, but I'm not betting against the Chiefs. I don't know why people keep moving them. And yeah, it's at, they're at plus 650 right now. So it actually a little bit better odds. The Chiefs are the Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes. You keep thinking that you can count them out for 2 years and they just come back and win. And I'm just not willing to bet against them anymore. And again, maybe I'm still hurt over the Las Vegas Super Bowl, but we saw it with the Eagles the year before. And I've been watching the Dynasty documentary, about the Patriots, and this team feels like that Patriots team. And until somebody can knock off the combination of Andy Reid with Patrick Mahomes, the other pieces, not that they don't matter, but those are the two most important pieces. And at plus 650, take my money. Take my money because I'm tired of betting against you.
If Todd Monken runs the ball 7 times instead of 6, the Ravens beat the Chiefs. 8 times they blow them out. But 6 times, stop.
But you know what? Again, I'm watching the Dynasty doc too.
These docs be getting you, Katie.
Yes, they do. They do. But the same thing can be said is that there were teams that made mistakes against the Patriots, and that's why the Patriots won. It wasn't that the Patriots necessarily muscled their way and won every game fully on their own offense or defense. But that's what I'm saying. That's why it's the Andy Reid thing too. And I also think that teams like the old Patriots, not the Patriots anymore, yikes, and the Chiefs, they get inside your head and they make people make bad decisions because you're afraid of how good they are. And that's what this Chiefs team has done.
You nailed those points. That's what happened to every team that has lost to the Chiefs in a Super Bowl and in an AFC title game. They've beaten themselves, or they
try to get too cute.
Exactly. Listen, you're dead on.
And I don't know that the Todd Monken should have done that in this next because we even saw Kyle Shanahan make kind of not the same mistakes, but some, you know what I mean? Who's to say that Todd Monken's not going to do the same thing again, or that Lamar Jackson's not going to be out there trying to play hero ball? Yes, that team was better. That team should have won, but they didn't, and they don't. And so, yeah, plus 650 for me for the Chiefs. Now, long shot. I think your Eagles are a long shot. You're going even longer with this one. Who you got?
Pittsburgh. Why not? Right? Like it's plus 5,000.
Yeah.
This is a Mike Tomlin play. These dudes won 10 games last year with you and I at quarterback, right? Got into the postseason. So imagine what could happen with a potential, Russell Wilson, who didn't play. Now that we know what he was going through during last season and being able to play as productive as he did and winning games, like he should have got MVP. Yeah. But you look at now, you have him in a clearer space, Justin Fields in a clearer space, Mike Tomlin, a healthier defense, a chance to get better on offense, adding pieces. Arthur Smith, I think, is a better OC than the head coach. We talked about this before, where guys try to call plays and also run the team. It can't. Only a select few can do that. He's not one of them. So why not put a little something? Put $1 on the Steelers at plus 5,000. I think that's a good long shot for your money.
I like it. Originally, I was going to say the Bengals here, but I've switched, and now I'm going to say the Texans at plus 2,200. Just look at what DeMeco Ryans was able to do in his first year there. They had a phenomenal draft. Not only did they make the playoffs, but they won their division and won a playoff game. And yeah, they lost to who probably should have won the Super Bowl if they didn't make bad decisions in the Baltimore Ravens. They were outmatched with that team. But now you add Joe Mixon to the mix, possibly a T. Higgins, if I'm getting myself excited here. Like, they've got a phenomenal defense, well coached, great quarterback. I like them at plus 2,200. This is just a team that you like to root for. I feel like now we've progressed into where the Chiefs are the villains and nobody wants to see them win anymore. And it seems like the Texans are on the come up, and a team that everybody wants to cheer for and to do well. So I will go ahead and say that. Before we let you go, NFL draft. Obviously, you're doing your entire draft profile right now. You said you should be done pretty soon. Who's going top 5 in your expert opinion?
If the Chicago Staleys / Bears do not take Caleb Williams number 1.
I can't imagine they don't. That would be wild.
You thought, like, you know how people, when Twitter shut down, they run to Facebook. Like, it would be chaos. Like, it would be hysteria. So I like Caleb Williams going to the Bears, Jaden Daniels going to Chicago, going to Washington
Commanders. Okay, I like that.
Drake May, I feel like, is right there in New England. Why not? Cardinals need a receiver, especially now losing Hollywood Brown.
Yeah,
this kind of screams we're taking Marvin Harrison Jr. And the shock of the top 5, because everyone's thinking offensive line, rightfully so. With the Chargers, but this is Jim Harbaugh. This is Greg Roman. This is, we're leaning in on a run game. We're leaning in on a point of attack.
Wait. Great. He took Greg Roman with him to the Chargers. How'd I miss that?
He's the OC over there.
What is it with the Harbaughs and their love of Greg Roman? He's not run it, game. Guys. He's not.
You're gonna get your run game going, like, and so
is he?
They're gonna get the run game going.
All right. So you think they're going who?
Tight end. Brock Bowers.
Ooh, Brock Bowers.
This would be the shock, right?
I love a tight end going number 5. That would be amazing.
Listen, this would also be like a prime spot for a trade. Like, if you're Minnesota, this is where you're trying to get to 5. And if you're the Chargers, taking 11 and 23, when you have multiple holes to fill in a deep receiver class, you can double up on young, talented wide receivers at 11 and also 23. So it would make sense for the Chargers to move out of this. But if they stay, Harbaugh is going to go crazy. I'm going to go Brock Bowers.
I love that. I would love to see a tight end go number 5. That would be very exciting. Tight ends are my favorite. Any draft futures or just, NFL 2024, 2025 futures that you've got your eye on early?
I was scrambling hard to find, this prop for or the future for who you think is going to have the number 1 pick in the 2025 draft. I was going to smash my entire 401k on the Giants. Like, listen, this team's offense will average, their points per game will look like yards per carry.
Bad.
That's what they're going to average. So, but I couldn't find it. But best believe when it becomes available, I'm smashing it.
Okay.
So
They're going to limit you on what you can put on it.
we putting everything on it. I'm gonna be armless. I'm putting everything on it. Like so, but I do like this, and we liked this last year. I liked this last year, and it almost played out. Colts winning the AFC South, and
it did almost play out.
Yeah, and here's why I like
even without Anthony Richardson. Yeah,
I used this analogy before, and I'm gonna use it again. It's like Heath Ledger never getting to see the movie he had his best role in, right?
Yeah, but
we didn't see Anthony Richardson with Jonathan Taylor. They played 2 plays together before Richardson got hurt. So now you add Richardson, you bring back Pittman. You got position to draft another good receiver. You already have Josh Downs in the second year who started to come on late. Alec Pierce is out there. You got good tight ends. You have an improving offensive line. Steichen in the second season. I think people are sleeping on the Colts. We're talking about the Texans, rightfully so. But the Colts were right there in a play-in game essentially last year. And I think they get it done with a healthy Anthony Richardson, who's now going to be paired with Jonathan Taylor.
And I'm sure he will have learned how to protect himself a little bit better, considering how that turned out. I love that, and I love this Colts team. I think they're also a fun, frisky team, like the Texans are. Speaking of the Colts, what do you think of Minshew now with the Raiders?
Him in Vegas is like, it's going to be a lot of. They're going to have a documentary, and you're going to get sucked in, and they're going to start believing that Minshew could be the guy. Right.
Yes.
So, but based off I
love Minshew. I mean, it's hard not to just every time he talks, I just find him to be hilarious and endearing. And he balled out though. I mean, he
did. He kept them afloat and got them on the precipice of getting to the playoff. Yeah. So that was his best season. But we saw in the need to win and get in type situation, Minshew showed up. But with the Raiders, I do feel like, I do feel like Minshew.
It's not the right fit.
It's a fit. I mean, it's a job. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, cash some checks.
Right. It's the best they could do for now.
Raiders are taking a quarterback in the draft.
Yeah. Yeah.
Put it that way. But shout out to Minshew though. Like, he getting them checks, man.
What do you think of Jimmy Garoppolo to the Rams?
It's time for a movie deal now. Like, yeah,
he's gotten paid.
Yeah, it's time. He did the Vegas thing. You know what I'm saying? It's time for a movie deal now. Like, so I'm waiting to see his quarterback special. You know what I'm saying? And then you can get looped in once again. And
please. Okay. By the way, Omaha, don't put Jimmy Garoppolo in the. It's not healthy for me.
You have to.
It's not healthy for me if you put Jimmy Garoppolo in a documentary.
So you put him in. Yeah, he was in Vegas. Vegas would have been perfect because of what goes on in Vegas. Now you got him.
It would have been a sad story.
But you got him now with access with LA, and like he already looked like John Stamos. So you might as well just go all in and like go all out with Jimmy G in it.
Yeah,
that will revive his career.
I think they've got better pizza in LA than in Vegas. That was something he didn't like about the Bay Area. That wasn't good.
Yeah, that is true. Right, that is true.
Which, whatever. Anyways, Emory, as always, thank you so much for joining us today. You are a delight. Talk to us about the football game plan, when it's going to be done, when people can find it.
They can pre-order the draft guide at footballgameplan.com/2024 draft guide. Over 1,000 individual scouting reports, the largest draft guide in existence. It's in its 5th year. We're excited about that. We should be done at the end of the month. So you'll have that in your email box. It's a PDF file, guys. Don't email me saying, when is my book coming in the mail? I would charge you $4,000 for a 1,000-page book. Like, no, it's a PDF file. Yeah. So be ready for your inbox. But again, you can pre-order it now. Footballgameplan.com/2024 draft guide. It is the industry standard.
Absolutely. I look forward to it every single year. Emory, thank you for joining us. You can follow him on X, Twitter, what do you want to call it, at FBall Game Plan, football game plan. But your Instagram is actually football, right? Football game plan. And then your Twitter is FBall Game Plan.
The reason why is because when I created Twitter, I think in 2009, football game plan was too long. So I had to shorten it.
Yeah. Yeah. Bye. That's why I guess football is kind of a long word. All right. Emory Hunt. You can also catch him on CBS Sports HQ talking all things draft as that comes up here. And guys, don't forget, join our March Madness Bracket Challenge. The link is in the description, or you can go to ESPN and search Moxie Bets Challenge in the tournament challenge groups. If you win, you get a spot here on Moxie Bets to give your bets, but you got to beat me and you got to beat everybody else. Of course, sign up for the Moxie Bets Bracket Challenge. On behalf of myself and Emory Hunt, this has been Moxie Bets presented by Caesar Sportsbook. We'll see you next time.